I'm scared that my sister's 44-year-old boyfriend is obsessed with my 13-year-old son. As a single mom, F38, working as a waitress, life is hard for me right now. I had to move in with my sister a few months ago because of some unexpected problems. It's not what I wanted, but I'm making the best of it. I divorced my ex-husband, 40M, who was emotionally abusive to me. We have joint custody of my amazing son, let's call him Roman 13, who is very supportive of our financial situation, even at his young age. He is my everything. He is smart and kind. He looks just like his dad, unfortunately, so he's handsome. I know every mom thinks their son is handsome, but mine really is breathtakingly beautiful. You wouldn't believe how many adults my age and older have made the creepy and inappropriate "he's gonna break a lot of hearts in a few years" remarks. He has ADHD, but he keeps his grades up. He plays a sport, and he's good at it. He has many friends who he hangs out with often, and they come over too. He's doing great, despite the changes in our living situation, and I would do anything to keep it that way. My sister, let's call her Sarah, 42, and her boyfriend, let's call him David, 44, are rich and live in a huge house. My sister was glad to have me, but her boyfriend David, not so much, which I totally get. I wanted to pay rent, but my sister refused. So I help out around the house and cook as much as I can with my work schedule. I hardly ever saw David anyway. He was always at the bar with his buddies, or working, or locked in his room playing video games. When we did see each other, he ignored me. My son Roman was staying with his dad for a while as I was sorting things out, and I was concerned about how David would react when my son moved in with us. I talked to David and assured him that Roman would be polite and well-mannered, but he was weird about it and brushed me off. Then David met Roman. David is totally obsessed with my kid. His attitude changed so fast that it made my head spin. All of a sudden, he stopped locking himself in his room and started spending time with us. Well, mostly my son. He helps Roman with his homework. He watches all of Roman's favorite shows so that they can chat about them together. He buys him food and presents. My sister Sarah is ecstatic. She's been telling me how us moving in has improved their relationship because David is happier now. I thought it was nice at first, but deep down, I wonder if there's something more sinister going on. To give you a better idea, I've listed some other changes I've noticed that I'm not sure if they're harmless or not. David keeps texting my son, even when he knows he's in school. The texts are normal, but David gets annoyed when my son doesn't answer right away. Before my son came to live with us, David hardly ever stayed home in the afternoon or evening. He would go out with his friends after work and drink until late, as my sister told me he's always done. But now, he's always home. He comes back before Roman gets off the bus, around 3:15 p.m. if he doesn't have practice, and doesn't leave the house, even offering to watch him while I work at night. He still drinks, but at home. Last Wednesday, I got up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night. My son's room is on the way to the bathroom. I noticed that the door was shut completely, which was strange, because Roman likes to keep it open since his room gets warm at night. He also has been texting his friends late at night, which makes him oversleep and miss the bus sometimes. So that night, I opened the door to let some air in and check if he was sleeping, and I saw David. He was standing next to Roman's bed, in the dark. He said he was looking for his phone, but I saw him flinch when I opened the door. He left quickly, mumbling something about how it might be in the kitchen. Why would his phone be in my son's room? And why was the door closed? David insists on driving my son wherever he needs to go. Only him. School, if he misses the bus. Practice, his friends' places. This is the same man who never helped me with anything until my son moved in. It's been very convenient since I'm not home a lot, but I wonder if he has a hidden agenda. I found David doing Roman's laundry, and some of his clothes went missing. This annoyed me because I make my son do his own laundry. I told him not to do this, but he said he was trying to save water. I don't know how to argue with him since it's his house. I'm scared to tell my sister about this. Am I overreacting? Am I stupid for being worried that he might have bad intentions? If I tell my sister and she gets mad and nothing is going on, she'll kick us out and we'll have nowhere to go. First update. Hello everyone. First of all, I appreciate all your comments and advice. I was so flooded with replies that I couldn't read them all, but I'm relieved and scared to know that I'm not imagining things, that something is wrong. I also want to thank those who shared their stories of being groomed SA, as they made me aware of a lot of things. Second, I want to clear up some things. I did not let my child ride with David after the bedroom incident. I would never do that. After that happened, along with the laundry issue, I started to notice David's behavior, and that's when I began to connect the dots. I came to Reddit soon after, and here we are, sadly. Third, I want to answer some questions I've seen. David is not on any S offender list. By saving water, David meant that he mixes loads of laundry. So he does his laundry and Roman's laundry together. The laundry that I've noticed missing are mostly socks, which is normal, even when Roman was doing his own laundry. But then, Roman told me that he was missing some shirts and a pair of underwear. That worried me, since this only started when David began doing his laundry. Huge red flag. The texts between them are really harmless. David asking him what he wants for dinner, what time he should pick him up, talking about shows they've been watching. But based on his other behavior, it's obviously a grooming strategy, and I'll make sure that it ends right now. He has no business texting my kid at school. The bedroom situation, in more detail. I looked in to see if Roman was asleep, and David was at the end of his bed. The room was completely dark, and I was very sleepy, so I didn't even realize it was him until he walked past me to leave. I checked on my son afterwards. He was still asleep, and the blankets covered him fully. Nothing looked unusual, but maybe I just got there at the right time. I made sure his door was open, and I kept my door open too so I could hear any footsteps. I couldn't sleep after that happened. It didn't feel right to me. None of these are reasons. Like I said, eyes are wide open now. Fourth, I'll talk to my son tonight after work. A lot of you said that was a good idea, and I was going to do it anyway. He hasn't been acting weird or unhappy, but that doesn't mean that David hasn't done anything to him. That possibility is horrifying to me, and I hope it's not true. I have a pretty good idea of what to say to him, but I'm not sure if I should tell him directly that I saw David in his room, or that he might be taking his clothes. Any advice on how to have this conversation are welcome. Fifth, I'm determined to confront David and talk to my sister Sarah about this. I'm not a pushover, and I'll do whatever it takes to protect my son. David is on a church trip, and luckily he's been away for a few days. I've decided to talk to my sister first, in case David lies or tricks her into thinking that everything is fine, and when he comes back, I'll face him depending on how my sister responds. Any other advice on how to handle it are welcome too. Sixth, I've seen your suggestions about installing cameras, looking for cameras, drug testing my son, and searching for his missing clothes. I plan to get cameras and drug test him after we talk. I did check for cameras and didn't find any, but I'll check again. I'm scared of what I might find if I end up finding Roman's missing clothes, but I know it's something I have to deal with, that some people can be so horribly evil to a child. Lastly, I know I have to leave this house. I know that. I'm working on it. If I could pack everything up tonight and go, I would. I'd send him to live with my ex-husband, but he's abusive to my son and me. More to me, but still. I've thought about your suggestions about looking for homeless shelters, and I'm thinking about making plans for that after I confront David. I'm a good mom, but I know I'm not the best mom. This week has been hell. I should have acted sooner. I regret that. Thank you for listening. I'll update once I do what I need to do. Update 2. Hello everyone. This is my second update. In the last 4 days, I talked to my sister Sarah, her boyfriend David, and my son Roman, all one by one. One went well, 2 didn't. I have a lot on my mind, so this might be long. There's a TLDR at the end. My first conversation was with my son, which happened the night I posted my first update. I'm afraid this post will get deleted like my first one, so I'll have to censor myself, but I think you'll get what I mean when I say that I asked my son the serious and explicit questions. Roman firmly denied that David ever did anything to him. He looked shocked that I asked. He said he would have told me if he had. I trust him. I know he could be lying, but I'm trying to believe him. My son and I have a very honest and open relationship. The first time my ex-husband ever verbally abused him, he came right to me and told me about it. My guard is up, but I have to give him some credit. Like you all suggested, I didn't mention the bedroom or laundry situation, but I was truthful with him and told him that David's behavior toward him was wrong. We had a talk about boundaries, saying no, consent, etc. I made it clear to him that David is not to drive him anywhere, text him anymore, and be alone with him ever. I also explained what grooming is, and that it's what David has been doing to him. He said he learned about it at a school assembly. Then, he said something that hurt me. He apologized for letting David treat him that way, that he shouldn't have fallen for it, his exact words. I told him that none of it was his fault. I want him to understand that David is not preying on him because of how he looks or how he acts. He is doing it because he is a predator, and they prey on the weak. Honestly, I could tell that the conversation had left him a bit stunned. To find out that the person you liked and trusted isn't who you thought he was would shake any kid up. For the rest of the night, he stuck to me like a lost puppy. It did hurt me a little to see him like that. but I don't want him to feel safe around David, so I don't regret it. Sarah was next. I knew it would end up in a fight before the conversation even started. It's always been like that with her. My sister is nice, but not kind. She'll take you in off the street, but then throw it back in your face if you cross her. So, I knew what I was getting into, but I had to do it not only for my kid's sake, but for hers. This is not a man I want her to be with, have children with, or have in our family. I told her that I was uneasy with the way David acts around Roman, and that I think it's a lot more serious than what he shows it to be. I mentioned that I didn't like the gift giving and the constant texting, and I brought up the bedroom and laundry incidents. Like I expected, she was more upset that I was accusing her boyfriend of grooming my son. She didn't see how that was evidence of anything. Do you know how many socks and pairs of underwear I've lost while doing laundry? It's probably stuck somewhere in the dryer. The more I shared my worries, the more angry she got. She thinks I'm crazy, basically. She said that whenever things go well for me, a place to live, food to eat, a stable job, I ruin it on purpose because deep down, I don't think I deserve happiness. That she tries to help me every time, but I end up betraying her, like I am now. So, she doesn't trust me. That's her choice, fine. I told her that I won't be living at her house much longer, and that I don't want David near my kid anymore. That we'll stay away from them for the rest of my short time here. She's letting me stay, surprisingly, but she said she's happy to see me leave. She swore that David would never harm Roman, and that she was sorry to see their relationship ruined over an accusation with no real proof. That I shouldn't let my self-destructive behavior and my bipolar paranoia interfere with other people's happiness, and that I better not accuse her boyfriend of being a predator anymore. Basically, she kept blaming me, so I stopped it there. Oh, and she told me that she wants me to pay her back for things like clothing and grocery shopping, because apparently, we are using up her money with buying so much food. Yes, an 8th grader growing fast eats a lot. Surprise. But I apologized and said I'd buy his and my groceries from now on. David came back from his church trip Friday morning, which is when I faced him. I was very angry, so I didn't go easy on him. He was confused by my aggression, but once he realized what I was suggesting, his attitude changed. Sit down, let's talk about it, he kept saying. Except he was the one who was anxious and looked like he was about to have a panic attack. I stayed calm. I asked him why he was in my son's room in the middle of the night with the door closed. He gave me the same excuse, that he was looking for his cell phone. I asked him why he couldn't have waited until morning. He said that he set the alarm to 5 a.m. for work and that he didn't want it to go off with my son in the room and wake him up. I asked him why he was standing over my son's bed. He admitted that he was trying to wake him up and asked him if he'd seen his phone. Didn't he just say that he didn't want the alarm to wake him up? I asked him what made him think it was okay to wake up my child in the middle of the night to help him look for a cell phone. He said he wasn't thinking clearly and that he was sorry. I asked him about the missing laundry too. He strongly denied what I was implying. He said that his and my sister's clothing get lost in the laundry all the time, that he would help me find my son's missing clothing, all while apologizing a lot. I'll admit, I was surprised by how sorry he was, and it made me a bit soft. I thanked him for letting us stay in his house, and I apologized for not setting boundaries sooner, but I told him that from now on, I didn't want him around my son. No more driving him places, buying him gifts, texting him, helping him with homework, doing his laundry, etc. I basically told him that he is not allowed to be alone with my son or touch his things ever. He broke down in tears. He was hysterical. The idea of me thinking that he is preying on my son made him miserable, that he'd never do that. He said, "I love him like a father loves a son." When reading my original post, a lot of you thought the same thing at first. So did I, but I just don't like the way David looks at him. Yes, I see the kindness in his eyes toward my son as he helps him with homework or watches a show with him, but there is a hint of something greedy and evil that I can't ignore. Anyway, I told him that it's not healthy for him to be so obsessed with a child, and that he can't rely on my kid for happiness. I told him that we'd be leaving very soon. More on that later. I didn't tell him where or when it was happening. He asked if there was anything he could do to fix the situation. He suggested that the 4 of us sit down and talk about it. I refused. I repeated that he is not allowed near my kid anymore, and left it at that. A small part of me feels like I was too hard on him overall. Maybe he was just looking for his phone. Maybe it's a coincidence that clothes are missing, but he was on his knees, crying, like I had just taken everything away from him. For a child he hasn't known for that long. I don't think he was heartbroken that I'd accused him of being a predator. He was heartbroken that I took away his access to my child. I'm not dumb. I once saw this man argue with my sister, cruel verbal attacks from both sides, which ended in my sister crying. He didn't cry. For my peace of mind, and yours, I have been watching Roman like a hawk. When I'm home, he's with me. When I'm not home, he's at a trusted friend's house, or again, with me. I actually took him to work with me this morning, which he wasn't happy about, but whatever. I made him block David's number, of course. We haven't been in the house since Friday, but as some of you suggested, I will sleep in his room at night instead of making him sleep in my room. I'll be honest, I decided to wait on drug testing him, because I really don't think David has been drugging him. My son is naturally a deep sleeper, and has always had trouble waking up for school, even before we moved into my sister's house. I checked his text messages, and from what I've seen, he's never texted David at night. He's usually up texting his friends in a group chat. Like you all suggested, I bought a nanny cam, specifically the one where you can watch the footage on your smartphone. I didn't expect it to be so expensive. I ordered them on Wednesday, and they are due to arrive tonight or Monday morning. I'll put it in my son's room and review it every day. I'm really nervous because there's a chance that I'll see something disgusting, and I don't know if I can handle that. Many of you have expressed your worries for my kid. From what I've seen and from what he's told me, he's doing fine. We have been staying at a motel for the weekend, now that David has come back from his church trip. I wasn't taking any risks. $56 a night and a bit sketchy, but I don't want to complain. Again, despite the situation, his mood has been a lot better than mine has. He thinks a motel is the same as a hotel, so to him, it's like we're on a mini vacation. It's amazing how kids can be so strong, even in the most unsettling situations. Most of you have suggested that I go to a women's shelter. I checked this out, and while it's an option, the nearest one to where I live is over an hour away. I don't have a car. I can take the bus, which is how I usually get around, but that messes up his school schedule and my work schedule. It's still winter and very cold where I live, so I'd rather keep an eye on him than live on the street and expose him to the cold weather. And I'm not taking him back to my ex-husband's house. There's a reason why he left and why I left him, which leads me to some good news. I applied for public housing a long time ago, and I'm in the process of getting approved. They contacted me for documentation, which I sent, and I got verified. So I think that's a good sign. I'm very lucky, since I know waitlists can be long sometimes. I'm amazed that I'm keeping it together so well, but I'm proud of myself. I think I'm doing everything I can. Thank you for listening. I'll update again soon with hopefully better news. TLDR, staying at motel after facing sister and her boyfriend. Responses were harsh. Son is okay, and nothing bad has happened to him. Camera has been bought and will be installed and checked daily once I go back. And a thorough search of David's room will be done once I get the chance. Currently getting approved for public housing, which will be my way out. Edit. This is obvious, but I will of course talk to my son before putting a camera in his room. Update 3. Hello, all. This is my third update. Another long one, so TLDR at the bottom. I have both bad news and good, really good news. Because of the bad news, I'm not feeling great mentally right now. So I apologize if this is messy, because I don't really know where to begin. I'm angry, hurt, disgusted, and as all of my emotions pile up, I'm starting to spiral a bit. And before anyone gets worried, I'll say it now that my son is doing okay. I guess I'll start by saying that my son and I weren't in the house much until Friday of this week. We'd been staying at a local motel that's fairly close to his school and where I work. I'm a waitress at a restaurant, and my manager knows I'm having housing issues, so he's been a bit understanding with me when I call out. But when you don't work, you don't get paid. And between the lifts, takeouts, and motel costs, my wallet isn't doing so well, but I'm 100% making it work, and I have no regrets. But since we weren't at the house, things got worse. David's number is blocked on Roman's phone, but he found him on TikTok and Instagram on Monday night and messaged him there. Nothing explicit in the messages, just things like, "Did you block my number? I really miss talking to you. Is everything okay? Maybe in the future, we can talk to each other again. I'm sorry if I upset you or your mom. Are you and your mom safe? Where are you staying? Respond to me when you get a chance. I have something important to tell you," and many more like that. Just him pleading with my son for a conversation. I was furious when my son showed me. I think what made me the most angry is that I know David messaged him because he thought my kid would respond without telling me. He thinks they have some secret, private relationship behind my back that I'm interfering with. I'm pretty sure that's why he hasn't kicked me out of his house. He's not mad, just miserable and desperate for some kind of contact. I feel like no matter how hard I pull my son away from David, he He's refusing to let go. We blocked the Instagram and TikTok accounts right away, and I screenshotted the messages. I'm trying to keep a record of everything. I asked Roman to delete his Snapchat account just in case, but he didn't want to do that. I'm 99% sure he has a girl on there that he likes. I let that slide because he came straight to me about the other accounts, and he agreed not to add any new accounts on Snapchat or post anything that revealed our location for the time being. This whole ordeal upset my son. He broke down in tears when he came back from school the next day. That hurt a lot to see. I don't know if I said this, but Roman really liked David, and they got along well. Maybe my kids saw him as a father figure, since he was ignored and mistreated by my ex-husband. I think I underestimated the mental toll it would take on him from having to cut David off completely, and then block him when he reached out privately. Someone said that I should get him into therapy soon. I plan to do that once we are safely living on our own, and I find the money for it. It's definitely a priority. David's harassment spilled over to me too. He called me multiple times and texted me things like, "Let me know when you're back so we can resolve this. Can I come to Roman's baseball game on Thursday with you? I want to support him. Can you please reply? I'd really like to talk. Just the two of us. I'm sorry if I gave you both the wrong idea. I didn't block his number on my phone. I thought that the more he talked, the more likely he'd keep incriminating himself, and I could use his words against him. I didn't respond to any of his questions, but I told him that if he ever contacted my kid again, or if he showed up to his school, or any events, that I'd go to the police right away. And that's not a bluff either. He doesn't know that I'm getting the police involved, because I now have solid proof that this man has a sick fixation on my child. This is the bad news, and I'll warn you that if you're easily triggered, please don't read anymore, or at least skip this and the next 2 paragraphs. I want to thank you all for confirming my suspicions in the first post, because I found something horrible. I said that I planned to set up a camera in Roman's room. I asked for his permission first, and he said he didn't mind since we're hardly in the house anymore. The camera I picked is motion sensitive and links the footage to my iPhone, so I can watch it anywhere. The camera was set up on Sunday night as soon as I got the package, and I hid it above the door frame so that it covered the whole room. You can't see it unless you use a ladder. I didn't get anything for a few days. I was randomly notified of movement in the room, but saw nothing when I looked at the footage. But on Wednesday evening, at around 6, David came into my son's room, stood there for a moment, and then left. No more than a minute. An hour or so later, he came back and started going through his drawers. He picked up a specific garment and left in less than 2 minutes. I wanted to vomit. I didn't sleep that whole night at the motel. The next day, I had someone cover my shift, which gave me the chance to do a thorough search of David's room while he was at work, and my son was at school. I found the article of clothing inside of his pillowcase, on top of the pillow, right where he would lay his head to sleep at night. I was so sick to my stomach that it took me almost 2 hours to take that article of clothing and check it for evidence. I won't go into details, but you can guess what I mean. I was nauseous the whole time. All I could do was put on gloves, throw it into a Ziploc bag, and shove it into my closet. I didn't want to look at it or even think about it. I still don't. That answers the question of why David was so eager to do my kids' laundry. Who knows how long this has been happening? I've been thinking hard about what to do next. The most important thing is to go to the police, but I also need to talk to my sister Sarah. We are not getting along very well at the moment. She was furious when she learned that I confronted her boyfriend last week. She can't believe that I accused him of trying to seduce my son. She says he changed after we moved out and fell back into his old ways. He started hanging out with his buddies at the bars every night. He drank more and more. He stopped coming home early from work and would show up at almost midnight if he came home at all. And he didn't show any love for her. She blames me for making him depressed again. Those are clear signs of trouble, but she doesn't seem to see them. She is more worried about the fact that David has been missing since Thursday. He went to work, came home for a bit, then left again without saying when he would return. That makes sense to me. He must have realized that either she or I took the piece of clothing that was hidden in his pillowcase, and now he's scared to face us. That confirms my suspicions. I have to tell my sister everything, maybe tonight or tomorrow. I don't know how to approach it, and I'm anxious about how she will react. She still thinks that I'm having a manic episode. I have bipolar 1 disorder, and I take medication to control it. If I stop taking my meds, my mania will get worse and worse until I lose touch with reality. So I understand her worries. I caused her a lot of trouble when I was unstable, but that's not what's happening to me right now. I have solid evidence and video evidence of her boyfriend being a pervert. I can show her the camera footage, but then I have the problem of not asking for their permission to put a camera in their house, and I don't know how she will feel about that, even if it was for a good reason. I just wish she would appreciate that I exposed her boyfriend. possible fiance, as a predator before she married him. She can't have children anymore, but she wants to adopt someday, so I need to tell her, somehow. My son and I have been staying in the house since Friday night. My sister hasn't kicked me out yet, but she clearly doesn't want me here. The only thing that's stopping me from leaving with our stuff is that David is still missing. He hasn't told anyone where he is, and he has switched off his phone's location, my sister says. She guesses he might be sleeping on a friend's sofa, something he has done before. I think he's aware that I'm on to him, but his disappearance means that I can remain in the house for now. I'm keeping a close eye on my kid and being very alert, still sleeping in his room, bringing him to work with me, etc. I can tolerate the resentment from my sister as long as he is safe, especially since we're not going to be here much longer. That brings me to the good news. I got accepted for public housing. I won't give too many details, but I will give the most important one. We'll be able to move in about 3 weeks. There are a lot of things that I need to sort out, the school bus system, a way to get to work, etc. But I'm happy that something is going my way after this horrible week. The constant watchfulness is tiring, and I'm eager to be in a safer place. I suppose the only thing I have left to say is that I'm not sure how to present the evidence I have to the police. When I hand them what I have, they'll start some kind of investigation, right? I'm just worried that I could get in trouble for the camera, and the messaging, that's harassment, right? Do I tell my sister everything before I go to the police? Any advice you can offer is appreciated, because I've never dealt with a situation like this before, and I don't want to mess it up. Just because I'm leaving doesn't mean that I'm letting David off the hook for what he's done. Thank you all for your steadfast support. I'm struggling right now, but I'll update as soon as I can. Thank you for hearing me out. TLDR, discovered David sending inappropriate messages to my son and recorded him stealing my son's clothes. We'll give evidence to the police so they can investigate. We'll reveal everything to my sister. Got accepted for housing and will leave soon. ETA. I appreciate the amazing advice. I stored the clothing in a paper bag. I didn't know how plastic could damage it. I will duplicate the texts and the camera footage. I will keep quiet to my sister for now, and I am heading to the police tomorrow. I am searching for a lawyer too. Roman's school has been notified that I am the sole guardian who can collect him. He will be with a friend tomorrow night, and once I have some money, I will relocate us to the motel.